Alien feline beings were traded for meat. He used his last credits to purchase them. Interstellar black markets were the festering wounds of the galaxy, places where morality was buried in credits drowned out conscience. Captain Jack Harlow knew this all too well, which is exactly why he steered clear of them as if they carried the Andromeda plague. Yet here he was, navigating the crowded bazaar on Nexus 6, a lawless asteroid colony on the edge of Terran Alliance territory. "Damn it, this is a waste of time," he muttered, pushing past a massive draconian merchant. The alien hissed in protest, but Jack kept walking. He hadn't wanted to set foot here. Hell, he fought it all the way. But when your ship's atmospheric regulator craps out in deep space and the closest authorized parts dealer is 3 weeks away, morals become a luxury you can't afford. The market stretched through a vast cavern carved into the asteroid's core. Flickering neon signs cast shifting shadows over stalls selling everything from contraband weaponry to exotic drugs. The air reeked of alien spices, unwashed bodies, and the sharp metallic scent of fear. Jack's communicator buzzed. He tapped the device behind his ear. "Tell me you found the part?" Captain's voice came through from his engineer, Mac. "Still searching," Jack replied, glancing over the chaotic vendor stalls. "This place is a mess. Hurry up. We've got maybe 18 hours before life support starts playing with our oxygen." "Got it." Jack ended the call and picked up his pace. The sooner he found the regulator, the sooner he could get out of this dump. He'd already gone past 3 slave auctions, each one turning his stomach more than the last. The Terran Alliance had banned slavery centuries ago, but out here at the edge of known space, human laws were practically pointless. Just as he was about to turn down another alley, something caught his eye. A heavy metal cage with a massive lock, tucked away in a shadowy corner. Inside, 3 slender figures with bright blue skin and faint silver speckles sat huddled. Their large yellow eyes with feline pupils darted nervously around the market. Small, pointed ears atop their heads twitched with every new sound. Jack froze in place. They were Philidians. A rare species from the outer rim. Their bodies were barely covered by simple brown rags that did nothing to hide their delicate features, or the fear etched across their faces. A crude sign hung from the cage. "Prime meat, exotic taste, sold by weight." "Fuck me," Jack whispered, bile rising in his throat. The Felidons were being sold as food. Even in this godforsaken place, that was a new low. A bulbous alien with mottled green skin and 4 arms stood beside the cage, barking at passers-by in a guttural language. Jack's universal translator picked up fragments. "Tender flesh, rare delicacy. Special price for whole set." One of the Philidians, slightly taller than the others, was striking silver markings across her cheeks, looked directly at Jack. There was no hope in those eyes, just a resignation. Something snapped inside him. Before he could think better of it, Jack was marching toward the cage. The 4-armed merchant turned to him, multiple eyes blinking in rapid succession. Interested in premium meat human, the alien gurgled through a translator. "Very tasty, very tender, special price for you." Jack's hand drifted instinctively toward the blaster at his side, but he hesitated. Starting a gunfight would only get him killed and wouldn't do the Philidians any good. Instead, he asked with a tight voice, "How much?" The merchant named a price that made Jack's eyes go wide. It was nearly all the credits he had, including what he needed for the atmospheric regulator. "Too steep," Jack countered. "They're half-starved, maybe diseased too." The merchant crossed his upper arms defensively. "No disease, top quality from royal bloodlines." Jack spat, "Bullshit. I'll give you half that." What followed was 15 minutes of some of the most aggressive bargaining Jack had ever done. The merchant was stubborn, but Jack was desperate. Not for exotic meat, but to wipe that smug grin off the bastard's face and free those girls from that cage. Finally, they reached a deal. It would cost Jack every credit he had, leaving nothing for the regulator. It was a suicide move, no doubt about it. His ship would be a floating coffin in days. But he went ahead anyway. The merchant unlocked the cage with a series of complicated gestures, and the door swung open with a rusty squeal. "Null, roll: assistant." Avoid eye contact with anyone. As they stepped out of the cage, Jack took off his jacket and threw it over Laura's shoulders. It was way too big for her, but it gave her some semblance of dignity. He wished he had more clothes to spare for the others. "Where are we headed?" Laura asked as they started navigating the market. Jack paused. He had no regulator, no credits, and now 3 refugees relying on him. Their ship's air was thinning, and they were deep inside a black market where aiding slaves could get him killed. "Home," he finally said. "We're going home." But he had no clue how they'd get there safely. Jack led the Philidians down the tangled corridors of the market, his mind in overdrive. Without the atmospheric regulator, the horizon would turn into a floating coffin within 18 hours. His crew, his family, depended on him. And he'd just spent their last hope on a moral gamble. No regrets. Glancing back at the scared aliens trailing behind him, he knew he'd make the same call again. Still, it didn't fix their immediate problem. "Captain," Laura's sweet voice broke into his thoughts. "You slowed Jack down just enough for the sisters to catch up. We need a part from my ship. Without it, we can't breathe." Elira, the youngest of the 3 with delicate silver patterns like constellations across her shoulders, spoke up. "You spent all credits on us? No credits for a part?" The guild in her voice made Jack's chest tighten. "Don't worry about that. I'll figure something out." They turned a corner, and Jack saw it, the salvage shop he was headed to before his detour. Through the grimy window, he glimpsed the atmospheric regulator sitting on a display shelf, taunting him. "Wait here," he told the sisters, positioning them in a shadowy alcove. "Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. I'll be right back." Mita, silent until now, grabbed his wrist. Her touch was warm, her yellow eyes intense. "Dangerous?" "Everything here's dangerous," Jack admitted, "but I don't have a choice." He approached the shop carefully, calculating angles, exits, and possible witnesses. Jack wasn't a thief, he was a soldier turned traitor. But desperate times called for desperate measures. The shop owner, a hefty Tarion with 4 arms and a constant scowl, barely glanced up as Jack stepped in. "Perfect." Jack strolled casually, eyeing the regulator, acting like he belonged. Just as his fingertips brushed the device, a broad hand shot out, gripping his shoulder. "Not for touching," the Tarion growled. "For buying," Jack forced a smile. "How much?" The price, the name, it was astronomical. Triple what it should be. "Look," Jack started, "I'm in a tight spot." "Not my problem," the Tarion cut him off. "Pay or leave?" Jack's hand crept toward his blaster. "One shot, grab the part, run like crazy." A commotion outside caught their attention. Jack's stomach sank as he saw the four-armed merchant from earlier, waving wildly while talking to security. The Philidians were gone. "Damn," Jack muttered, dropping the subtlety. He shoved the Tarion aside, snatched the regulator, and sprinted for the exit. Alarms blared as he burst into the hall. Security drones dropped from hidden panels in the ceiling, locking onto him. "Stop thief," the Tarion roared. Jack ducked into a side corridor, clutching the regulator to his chest. His goal was to find the Philidians and return to the horizon quickly. Suddenly, a slender blue hand shot out from a ventilation shaft, catching him off guard. Laura's face appeared in the opening, whispering urgently, "In here. Quick!" Without hesitation, Jack squeezed into the tight space, finding himself in close quarters with all 3 sisters. Their bodies pressed against him in the confined tunnel, warm and trembling with adrenaline. "How did you?" "We're good climbers," she breathlessly explained, her breath hot against his neck. "Good hiders too." Elira added, "Market security's looking for blue females. Meet the seller, he's furious." Jack knotted his brow. "Got the part, but now we're all on the run. We need to get back to my ship." Laura's eyes gleamed in the dim light. "We help. No shortcuts. Follow us." The sisters moved through the ventilation system with astonishing grace, sleek, flexible, effortless. The way their muscles shift beneath their blue skin. the graceful curve of their spines. Despite everything they've been through, there was an undeniable beauty about them. Laura glanced back, locking eyes with him. A knowing smile played on her lips, revealing just a hint of pointed canines. Jack's face heated, and he quickly looked away. "Sorry," he muttered. "I didn't mean to stare." "It's okay," Laura replied, her voice gentler than before. "You've saved us. You can look." "On our world," Elira added, "Savior holds a special place. Great honor. Meet and sign an agreement. Very high honor." Something in their tone made Jack's heart beat faster. Surely a cultural misunderstanding. He needed to focus on escaping, not on Laura's lingering gaze or how Elira's hand occasionally brushed his arm. They stepped out from the ventilation system into a maintenance corridor. The docking bay was just ahead. But so were a dozen security drones and several armed guards. "Damn it, Jack, this isn't happening. We're never getting through." "We help," Laura insisted. She exchanged glances with her sisters, a silent communication passing between them. Felidians have their own gifts. Before Jack could ask what she meant, the sisters started to change. Their pupils dilated until their eyes nearly turned fully black. The silver markings on their skin softly glowed. Their movements grew even smoother, almost hypnotic. "What are you?" Jack asked. "Distraction," Laura said. "You run when guards look at us, get to the ship, start the engines." "I'm not leaving you behind," Jack protested. Elira touched his arm, her fingers lingering. "Not leaving. Following. Trust." Despite his doubts, Jack nodded. The sisters stepped out of their hiding spot, moving into the open with a grace that seemed almost supernatural. The guards immediately noticed, but instead of drawing weapons, they appeared transfixed. Jack realized the Felidians were emitting some sort of pheromone, a natural defense that momentarily mesmerized predators. He took off, heading toward the horizon with a regulator pressed to his chest. As he reached the ship's ramp, he glanced back to see the sisters breaking free from their trance, darting between the still-guarded figures with incredible speed. They were breathtaking. And for the first time since he'd discovered them in that cage, Jack found himself questioning what he'd truly gotten into. He reached the entrance ramp as chaos erupted inside the docking bay. The Felidians, sisters, darted between the bewildered guards with supernatural agility, their blue forms flickering as they sprinted toward the ship. "Mac," Jack barked into his communicator, "ignite the engines. We're out of here." "About damn time," his engineer responded. "Did you get the?" "Got it. Just be ready to fly." The ship's engines roared to life as Jack stood at the ramp, blaster ready. The sisters were halfway across the bay when alarms blared. Security drones descended from above, targeting lasers, red dots appearing on the fleeing Felidians. "Run!" Jack shouted, firing a few shots in their direction. The sisters reached the ramp with a perfectly coordinated leap that seemed inhuman. Jack slammed the emergency close button as soon as they were aboard, and the horizon's ramp sealed with a pneumatic hiss. "Move! Move! Move!" He yelled into the calm. The ship lurched as Mac engaged the thrusters. Through the viewport, Jack watched as the docking clamp strained before finally snapping under the force of their unauthorized departure. The horizon ripped away from the bay like a cork from a bottle, leaving Nexus 6 and its maze of misery behind. Only then did Jack notice the strange feeling sweeping over him, warmth spreading through his body, his heartbeat pounding faster than adrenaline could explain. The air in the corridor felt thick, almost sweet. He turned toward the sisters, who were huddled together, catching their breath. Their silver markings still shimmered faintly, and their eyes remained dilated. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice rougher than he intended. Laura stepped forward, swaying slightly. "Pheromones still active. Take time to rest." "Pheromones," Jack repeated, suddenly understanding the odd sensations rushing through him. "You mean the thing you did to distract the guards?" Elira nodded, her chest moving rapidly. "Defense mechanism for predators, makes them confused so I can escape easily." Jack swallowed hard, trying to concentrate. And what does it do to humans? The sisters shared a glance, their silent exchange clear between them. Laura's lips curled into a smile that sent a shiver through Jack. Different for humans, she murmured softly. Not confusion, but attraction. Suddenly, the corridor seemed uncomfortably tight. The air buzzed with tension. Jack stepped back purposefully, trying to clear his mind. I need to get this regulator installed, he said, holding up the stolen part. Before we all suffocate, Laura offered, moving closer. Jack shook his head. No, you three should rest. You've been through too much. Not tired, Elira insisted. Her yellow eyes bore into him with such focus it made his heart race. Before he could reply, the ship's intercom crackled to life. Captain, it was Mac. We've got company. 3 patrol ships on our tail. Looks like we upset the market authorities. Reality hit him hard. I'll be right there. He turned to the sisters. The crew quarters are down that corridor. Find some empty rooms and settle in. We'll talk later. As Jack hurried toward the bridge, he could feel their eyes following him. The lingering effect of their pheromones, making his skin tingle with awareness. The bridge was a flurry of activity when he arrived. Mac, a burly man with a thick beard and grease-stained coveralls, was hunched over the engineering console. Talia, his pilot, had her hands dancing across the navigation controls. What the hell did you do down there, Captain? Talia asked without looking up. Half the station's security forces after us. Long story, Jack replied, tossing the regulator to Mac. Get that installed. Priority 1. And what about them? Talia jerked her head toward the rear of the ship. Refugees, I bought them. You what? Mac looked up from the regulator, eyes wide. They were being sold as meat, Jack said flatly. I wasn't going to leave them there. Talia whistled low. Always the hero, a captain. So that's where our credits went. Can we outrun the patrols? Jack asked, changing the subject. Maybe, Talia replied. But they're gaining. We need a distraction or a miracle. Jack's mind raised. The Horizon was a trading vessel, not a warship. They had minimal weapons and defenses. What they needed was, Captain Laura's voice echoed from the bridge entrance. All 3 sisters stood there, their silver markings gently pulsing. I told you to rest, Jack said, sharper than he meant. We help, Laura insisted. Ship needs energy. We provide. Max snorted. Unless they can turn into batteries, I don't see how. Now, Philly Dean's channel energy, Elira stepped in. Connect to systems. Boost power. Jack stared at them. You can interface with our ship. Neat nodded. Through touch, brief connection only. Draining. Talia shot Jack a doubtful look. Captain, we don't know anything about them or their abilities. We're out of options, Jack replied. He faced the sisters. What do you need? Access to the engine core, Laura said. Direct contact. Max shook his head. That's the most delicate part of the ship. If they damage it, they won't, Jack said confidently, though the reason couldn't quite be explained. Maybe it was the pheromones clouding his judgment. Or maybe something deeper, an instinctive trust in these beings he'd risked everything to save. The engine room was a cathedral of machinery. I'm feeling strange. Jack nodded, unsure if he could trust his own voice. The pheromones were now influencing all of them, saturating the engine room with an irresistible aura. After a few minutes, the sisters parted their circle, swaying tiredly. Jack hurried forward to steady Laura as she teetered. Her body felt scorching against his. Did it work? She asked breathlessly. Yes, Jack replied, glancing at the screens. We've lost them. Relief washed over the Palladians' faces, quickly replaced by something else, an expression of hunger unrelated to hunger itself. We need rest now, Laura murmured, her lips nearly touching Jack's ear. Need recovery? The hint in her voice was clear. Jack looked at Mac and Talia, both blushing and avoiding each other's gaze. "Install the regulator," Jack ordered Mac. Talia set the course for the Vega outpost. "I'll help our guests settle in." As he led the sisters out of the engine room, Jack realized he was crossing a line. But with their pheromones clouding his judgment and their grateful eyes fixed on him, it was getting harder to remember why that line had seemed so significant. The time after their escape blurred for Jack. After helping the exhausted Palladian sisters to their quarters, he spent a while with each of them, offering comfort and forming connections that went beyond simple physical attraction. Their cultural way of expressing gratitude and bonding was nothing like he'd ever come across with human women, straightforward, unapologetic, and deeply spiritual. When Jack finally stepped out of Laura's quarters the next morning, he found his first officer, Commander Rex Donovan, waiting in the hall with arms crossed and a stormy look on his face. "We need to talk," Rex said flatly. Jack adjusted his rumpled uniform. "Can it wait? I need to check our course to Vega. That's part of what we need to discuss." Rex nodded toward the briefing room. "Now." Inside, Rex closed the door and faced Jack. "What the hell are you doing?" Jack hesitated, though he knew exactly what Rex was asking. "Those aliens, the Blue Cat women, you've been with them all night." Jack's jaw tightened. "My personal life isn't your business, Commander. It becomes one when it impacts this ship and this crew." Rex leaned in closer. "Those pheromones, they're flooding out. They're messing with your mind, with all our minds. Talia nearly steered us into an asteroid field because she couldn't focus. Max has been in the shower for an hour trying to cool off." "The effects are temporary," Jack said defensively. "Are they? Or is that just what you want to believe?" Rex's tone softened a bit. "Look, I get it. They're exotic, grateful, and they've got some kind of biochemical love potion working for them. But you're not seeing clearly. You don't understand what they've been through, what they were meant for. I get it, you spent our last credits on them, stole a crucial ship part, and now we're on the run," Rex argued. "And I get that ever since they came aboard, you haven't been the same Jack Harlow I've served with for 5 years." Before Jack could answer, the alarm blared across the ship. Talia's voice crackled over the intercom. "Captain, to the bridge. We've got a situation." Jack and Rex exchanged glances before rushing out. On the bridge, Talia was frantically tinkering with the controls while Mac hovered over the engineering station. "What's going on?" Jack demanded. "We're being tracked," Mac replied. "There's a signal coming from somewhere on the ship, leading market enforcers right to us." Jack's eyes widened. They must have planted a tracker on the ship. "That's not all," Talia added grimly. "We're approaching Vega Outpost, but I'm picking up strange communications. Lots of references to stolen goods and human thieves." Jack's blood ran cold. "They've alerted the outpost about us." Rex, studying the signals, grimaced. "I think the outpost is run by the same group that operates the black market. We're walking into a trap." Just then, the Palladian sisters entered the bridge. They'd been given fresh jumpsuits from the ship's supplies, simple, snug fits that showed off their slender frames. Their silver markings were dormant now, but their presence still demanded attention. "Danger," Laura stated sharply, not asking. "We could feel it." Rex gave her a look that said it all, alert, cautious. "They're starting to sense things now. Palladian's instincts are sharp when it comes to threats," Elira explained. "It's part of survival." She moved toward the viewport, ears twitching at the sight. Many ships lined up at the outpost, waiting, definitely not civilian traders. They were armed interceptors. Jack made a quick decision. "We need to change course, find another place to resupply." But Mac cut in urgently. "No time. The tracker's signal is growing stronger. They're closing in from behind, and the outpost has ships ready to box us in. We're trapped." Rex moved closer to Jack, voice dropping low. "This is what I was talking about. These females have caused nothing but trouble. They're clouding your judgment. Laura's keen ears picked up his words. Her yellow eyes narrowed as she stepped toward Rex. You think we manipulate, do you? She challenged, her voice smooth but edged with steel. Think we control with pheromones? Rex stayed cool, eyes steady. The evidence speaks for itself, he replied. Pheromones only amplify what's already there, Laura argued. They can't generate feelings out of thin air. Alyra nodded in agreement. Human males resist control, unlike other species. That's why Felidian values humans, Mita added, because their strong wills make choices even under the influence of pheromones. Jack felt a strange sense of pride at their words, but Rex stayed skeptical. Convenient explanation, he muttered. Enough, Jack cut in. We can argue about alien biochemistry later. For now, our priority is staying alive and avoiding capture. Talia looked up from her console. We might try the Kelvin belt. The asteroid field could hide our signature and buy us some time to ditch the tracker. Too risky, Rex countered. One mistake among those rocks and we're space dust. Jack examined the tactical display, considering their options. The market enforcers were closing in from behind, while the outpost had ships ready to intercept. They were outnumbered and outgunned. Unless the sisters managed to boost our engines again, Jack thought slowly, could they pull it off once more? Can we get enough speed to break through the blockade? Laura exchanged glances with her siblings. Possible, but risky. Hitting the second channel too soon could backfire. And what about the tracker? Rex inquired. Even if we succeed, they'll just follow us. She takes a step forward. We can find the tracker, sense any foreign energy. I'll go with her. Mac volunteered, catching everyone off guard. When they looked at him, he simply shrugged. What? I'm the engineer. If there's something strange on my ship, I want to know about it. Jack nodded. Do it. Rex, get the weapon systems ready. We might have to fight our way out. Tali charts a course through the narrowest part of their blockade. As the crew splits up to their tasks, Lure stays beside Jack. Her fingers brush his arm, sending a jolt through him, not pheromones, just electricity. You trust us, she says softly. Despite his warnings, Jack covers her hand with his. You saved us once. You'll do it again. And when she looks into his yellow eyes and asks, when the danger's gone, what then? That lingering question Jack had been avoiding since their night together crept back into his mind. What kind of future could a human captain have with 3 alien women saved from a meat market? He'd promised to figure it out. Just then, the ship's proximity alarm silenced any further talk. On the view screen, the first interceptor appeared and loomed closer, weapons ports gleaming with lethal intent. The trap was closing in, and time was running out. Found it! Max's triumphant voice burst through the intercom. The tracker was hidden inside the regulator's power cell. Jack leaned toward the communication link. Can you disable it without messing up the regulator? Already did, but there's something else. Max's tone lowered. You need to see this, Captain. Engineering Bay. Now. Jack glanced at Laura, who stayed by his side on the bridge. Keep preparing for the energy channeling, he said. I'll be right back. In the engineering bay, Jack spotted Mac and Mita hunched over a workbench, focused on their tasks. Across the table rested the dismantled tracker, a sleek little device no bigger than a thumbnail. What am I looking at? Jack asked. Mac gestured toward a tiny chamber at the center of it. It's not just a tracker, it's a sampler. A what? Jack pressed. It's been gathering biological data, Mac explained. Specifically, it was designed to detect and analyze feline blood. Jack's brow creased. Why would they be interested in that? Mita's ears lay flat against her head. They know what we are. Jack looked tense. And what exactly are you, then? He asked, a chill creeping into his voice. Mita diverted her gaze, her slender fingers tracing idle patterns on the workbench. Our blood is special, contains a compound called Neuralink that grants abilities to those who ingest it. What kinds of abilities? She whispered. Telepathy, mind reading, thought controlled, temporary, but very valuable to certain species. Jack's stomach clenched. The bloody market suddenly made horrifying sense. The feline weren't just being sold as exotic meat. They were being sold as a drug away for the galaxy's elite to gain psychic powers through consumption. That's why the price was so high, he realized. That's why they're hunting us so aggressively. Mac nodded grimly. And it gets worse. This device wasn't just tracking, it was transmitting data. They know exactly what they're chasing now. The ship shuddered as the first warning shots from the interceptors streaked past their hull. We're out of time, Jack said. Mac, get back to the engine room. We're going with the energy channeling plan. As they rushed back through the Carters, Mita cut Jack's arm. There's more you should know, she said urgently. About us. About bonding. Can it wait? She shook her head. When we joined with you last night, there was exchange. Our blood, your blood. Jack stopped short. What are you saying? Human males compatible with feline females. When we mate, small amount of Neuralink transfers. Permanent bond forms. Jack's mind reeled. Are you telling me I have this Neuralink compound in me now? A small spark, growing stronger every time someone joined. Her yellow eyes searched his face. You already feel it, right? The connection? Sometimes knowing what we're thinking? Now that she'd said it, Jack had noticed moments of unusual clarity, brief flashes of intuition about what the sisters were feeling or thinking. He chalked it up to their pheromones or maybe his own growing emotional bond. What does this mean for me? For us? It means you've been protecting in ways you don't realize, and I've been protecting too. It means we're truly connected. Family now. Another blast shook the ship, this one closer. The intercom blared with Rex's voice. Captain, we need you on the bridge. They're closing in. Jack and Mita sprinted the rest of the way. Chaos took over on the bridge. The tactical display showed 5 interceptors chasing them, with security vessels from the outposts moving to block their escape. Status, Jack demanded. Shields at 70%, Rex replied. We've got maybe 2 minutes before they can hit us with the intractor beam. Lurin Alir stood by the engine control station. Their silver markings had already started to glow, signaling the setup for the energy channeling. Ready? Jack asked them. Lurin nodded. But I must tell you, the second channeling is more dangerous than the first. It could cause changes. What kind of changes? Bond will grow stronger. Alir explained. We all will be connected more deeply, sharing thoughts, feelings intensified. Rex shot Jack a warning glance. Captain, if they're right, we don't have many options. Jack interrupted him. It's this or be captured. He directed everyone to plot a course through that gap in their formation. The moment the sisters boost our power, punch it. The Philidians formed their circle, hands joined, and started humming a melodic tune. The effect was even more intense than before. Their silver markings blazed like supernovas, and the ship's engines roared to life with fierce power. Jack suddenly felt a rush of alien sensations flooding into his mind, fragments of the sisters' thoughts and memories washing over him. Their childhood on a vibrant blue planet. Their capture by smugglers, the terror of the cage, and their overwhelming gratitude toward him. But there was more beneath the surface, a deeper insight into their culture and biology. Philidians form lifelong bonds with their mates, sharing a psychic connection that goes beyond physical intimacy. What had transpired between them wasn't casual or purely physical. By their standards, it was a marriage. The horizon surged forward at an impossible speed, threading the needle between 2 interceptors. Explosive gunfire erupted around them, but Talia's skillful piloting and the sisters' empowered abilities carried them through. It's working, Max yelled over the steady calm. We're breaking free. On the view screen, the interceptors lagged behind, unable to keep up with their increased velocity. The outpost shrank as they sped away from the trap. Yet, the sisters bore a heavy toll, their bodies shivered with the strain, silver markings flickering unpredictably. Laura was the first to collapse. Elira and Mita appeared seconds later, just behind him. Jack caught Laura as she tumbled down, holding her against his chest. Her skin was burning hot, her breaths shallow. "Laura, stay with me." Her eyes fluttered open, faintly glowing. "Did it work?" Jack told her, "Yes, we're safe." "You saved us again." A small smile formed on her lips, lasting a week. "Good, it was worth it." Rex moved closer, his face conflicted as he watched the tired Feladines. "Captain, we're out of immediate danger, but those ships will regroup. And now we understand why they want these females so badly." "We're not giving them back," Jack said firmly. "I wasn't suggesting that," Rex replied. "But we need a plan, somewhere to hide where they won't find us. And we need to figure out exactly what's going on with this blood bond thing." Jack nodded, feeling the strange new link to the sisters pulsing in his mind. It wasn't controlling him, Rex was mistaken about that, but it had altered him in ways he was just beginning to understand. First, they took her to medical, Jack ordered. Then they looked for a quiet spot to lay low while she recovered. As he carried Laura toward the med bay, with Mac and Talia helping Elira and Mita, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they'd crossed some kind of line. The hunt for the Feladines had shifted from seeking exotic meat to something bigger, about power, control, and a biological secret that could tilt the balance of power across the galaxy. Somehow, he'd ended up right at the heart of it all, with his crew. 3 days after their close call, Jack was sitting beside Laura in the med bay, holding her delicate blue hand as Dr. Eleanor Carson ran a medical scanner over her belly. The doctor's eyes grew wide as she examined the readout. "Well," Eleanor said, setting down the scanner, "I've never seen anything quite like this, but the readings are clear." "Congratulations, Captain. You're going to be a father." Jack's world spun off its axis. That's impossible. We've only been together for days." Laura squeezed his hand, her yellow eyes warm with affection. "Feladine gestation different from human. Bond accelerates process, creates life quickly when compatible. And it's not just Laura," Eleanor added, gesturing to the other examination beds where Elira and Mita rested. "All 3 sisters are pregnant." "With your children, Captain," Jack's jaw dropped. "All 3, Elira smiled shyly from her bed. "Is our way. Sisters share bond, share mate, share offspring. Stronger family unit this way," Mita explained, "children grow together, protected by all." Jack ran a hand through his hair, struggling to process this information. In less than a week, he'd gone from a solitary ship, captain, to a bonded mate with 3 pregnant partners. The fetuses are developing at an accelerated rate. Eleanor continued professional, despite her obvious fascination. "Based on these readings, you'll be holding your children in about 2 months, not 9. "Hybrid offspring special," Laura said softly, placing Jack's hand on her still flat stomach. "First of their kind, human strength mixed with Feladine gifts." Rex cleared his throat from the doorway. Jack hadn't even noticed he'd arrived. "Captain, we need to talk. In private." Reluctantly, Jack left the sisters and followed Rex into the corridor outside. "I assume you heard?" Jack asked. Rex nodded grimly. "The whole crew knows. It's hard to keep secrets on a ship this size." He lowered his voice, "But that's not why I'm here. We've detected something following us, something that shouldn't be possible." "The Market Consortium?" Jack asked. Rex shook his head. "Worse. It's a single ship moving faster than anything I've seen, and it's homing in on us with impossible accuracy, despite our scrambled signature." A chill ran down Jack's spine. "How?" Rex hesitated. I think someone's tracking the sisters through their minds." Jack remembered what Mita had told him about the Neuralink compound in Feladine blood, giving them telepathic abilities. "The leader of the consortium?" "Likely, and if he's been drinking Feladine blood for years, his powers would be formidable," Jack finished. "How long before he reaches us?" At our current pace, less than 12 hours, Jack muttered bitterly. They were still 3 days away from the nearest Terran Alliance outpost where they might find safety. There's more, Rex added. I've been checking the ship's database on felidines. Their pregnancies create a distinct psionic signature, like a light guiding others of their kind. With 3 pregnant females on board, we're broadcasting a psychic signal as bright as a supernova, Jack realized. He headed back to the med bay where the sisters sat up in their beds, ears flicking anxiously. They'd already picked up on something being wrong. He's coming, Lura said quietly. The Devourer. The who? Graf Mal, Alira explained, her voice shaking. The consortium leader has consumed hundreds of our kind over the years. Mita nodded in solemn agreement. His mental power has grown strong now. He can reach across stars, sense thoughts, and manipulate weak minds. Could he control you? Jack asked suddenly, concern in his voice. Lura shook her head. Our bond keeps us safe. Human minds are different, resistant to control. That's why he despises humans so much. And why he particularly hates you now, Eleanor added, checking her sister's vital signs. You took what he considers his property and created something he can never possess, a natural-born telepath. Jack's protective instincts flared. These weren't just refugees rescued from a meat market anymore, they were his family, his mates, and the mothers of his future children. We need a plan, he said. Something he won't see coming. Lura's eyes suddenly widened, her hand rushing to her belly. Jack, feel. He placed his hand on her stomach and gasped. Through their bond, he sensed more than just Lura's thoughts, there was a tiny new consciousness, primitive yet undeniably real and powerful. The babies he whispered about, I can feel them, Lura said with a smile despite the danger. They're growing quickly, already gaining mental skills. Stronger than pure Palladian, Mita added, blending human resilience with Palladian gifts. Jack's mind whirled. If he could sense his unborn children's evolving consciousness and see they already had mental powers, I've got an idea, he thought slowly, but it's risky, and I'll need all of you to trust me completely. The sisters looked at each other and then nodded together. We trust, Lura said simply. Jack turned to Eleanor. How much do you know about psychic shielding techniques? Enough to know they're mostly theoretical, the doctor answered, but I did a rotation on Cyanin during residency. They were experimenting with psionic dampening fields. Could you set up something similar here? Not to block the sisters' abilities altogether, but to redirect them? Eleanor paused to consider. Maybe with Max's help, we could modify the ship's EM field generators. Do it, Jack ordered. Rex set course for the Cygnus Nebula. Rex blinked in surprise. The nebula, it's a dangerous place to navigate. We could get lost there for weeks. Exactly, Jack said. It's also packed with ionized gas that messes with sensors and communications. If we can't outrun this Graf Mal, we'll have to outthink him. As the crew went to carry out his orders, Jack returned to Lura's side. She looked up at him with total trust in her yellow eyes. You plan to protect our children, she said. It wasn't a question. Jack nodded and gently stroked her cheek. I was ready to die for you when all I knew was that you were being sold as meat. Now that you're carrying my children, now that we're bonded, there's nothing I wouldn't do to keep you safe. Lura purred softly, a quiet sign of contentment despite their bleak situation. A human male's fierce protectiveness over his family is striking. Is that uncommon among your people? Philidian males are different, Alira explained from her bed. Not forming deep bonds only provides genetic material. Why females place such importance on human mates, I'd add human males stay, defend, love. Jack felt a surge of pride at their words. Humanity's protective instincts, something he'd always taken for granted, seemed rare and precious in the wider galaxy. As he gazed at the 3 stunning blue-skinned women carrying his children, Jack knew with total certainty he would defeat this devourer. Not just for the sisters, but for the new hybrid species they were building together. A link between 2 worlds that might someday reshape the galaxy, but first, they had to survive the next 12 hours. The Cygnus Nebula stretched out before them, a vast, swirling mass of ionized gases and stellar dust, casting the viewscreen in vibrant purples and blues. Under different circumstances, Jack might have admired its beauty. Now, he saw only a sanctuary. "Take us in," he commanded Talia silently, staying in full stealth mode. The horizon edged into the nebula's outer limits, its upgraded shields deflecting the corrosive particles that would normally damage a ship's hull. Behind them, long-range sensors picked up a vessel closing in fast, graph mouths, sleek and predatory, seeming to swallow the space between them whole. In the med bay, now transformed into a temporary command center, Jack stood amid his crew and the Palladian sisters. Eleanor and Mac had successfully modified the ship's EM field generators, forming a bubble of psionic redirection around the horizon. "The dampening field is active," Eleanor reported. "It won't block their abilities, but it should scatter the psychic signature enough to throw off anyone tracking us." Laura moved toward Jack with a grace that belied her condition. All three sisters now bore clear signs of their pregnancies, their bellies softly rounded beneath their jumpsuits. "There's something we need to tell you," she said, her voice melodic yet serious. "Something we've kept hidden." Jack raised a brow. "More secrets?" "Not from you," Eleanor clarified. "Secret from those who would hunt us." Mita nodded. "We're not ordinary Philidians. We're Triers." "Triers," Rex repeated. "What does that mean?" "Royal bloodline," Laura explained. "Three sisters born simultaneously. Very rare, meant to lead." Jack's thoughts spun. "Your royalty? Real princesses?" "More than princesses," Eleanor added. "We're, how do you say, living keys. Our combined presence activates ancient technology," Nita explained. "It can summon defenders." Jack looked at Rex. "Defenders?" Laura rested her hand on Jack's chest, over his heart. "Hidden fleet, Palladian resistance, fighting for generations, waiting for the Triers to unite and call them." "And you can do that? Just summon this fleet?" "Yes," all three sisters answered together, "but they need a safe place. They need focus." Jack's tactical mind quickly saw the potential. "That's why you're so valuable, not just because of your blood, but because of what you symbolize." "Graf Mal understands this," Laura confirmed. "Wants to consume us, gain our power, control the resistance." The ship shuddered as they moved deeper into the nebula, static crackling across the columns, ionized particles interfering with signals. "Perfect. How long would it take to call these defenders?" Jack asked. "Not long," Laura replied. "But we need a strong broadcast signal. Null, role: assistant. One that Graf Mal can't defeat." The crew scattered to their stations, getting ready for what would probably be the fight of their lives. Jack stayed with the sisters, who looked at him with a mix of hope and worry. "Dangerous plan," Laura whispered. "High risk for us." Jack took her hands. "Not just for you, for our children, for the future." Elira stepped closer, her yellow eyes shining. "Human males are so brave. So stubborn," Mita added softly. Jack gave a smile. "It's what we do, especially for family." The sisters gathered around him, their bodies warm against his. Their contented purrs vibrated through his chest. Through their bond, he felt their love, their trust, and something else, a fierce determination matching his own. "Ready?" he asked. They nodded together in unison. 2 hours later, the horizon hovered within a relatively clear pocket inside the nebula. The sisters sat in a triangle on the bridge, their silver markings glowing brightly as they linked hands. "Broadcast ready," Mac announced. "Weapons hot," Rex added. "Though I'm not sure how effective they'll be against Graf Mal's ship." Jack took a deep breath. "Ladies, whenever you're ready," the sisters began their melodic humming, but this time it was different. Deeper, more resonant, nearly architectural in its complexity. Their silver markings blazed like supernovas, and through his bond with them, Jack felt a wave of power unlike anything he'd known before. "Now, Mac," he said. The broadcast launched. A strong signal pierced the nebula's interference, carrying both the incriminating evidence against the consortium and the Palladian royal summons. Almost immediately, sensors picked up Graf Mal's ship changing course, heading straight for their location. "He took the bait," Tali announced, ETA 3 minutes. "And he's not alone," Rex added grimly. "Two more consortium ships just entered the nebula." Jack had anticipated this. "Hold position, keep broadcasting." The hum of the sisters grew louder. Their bodies now floated a few inches above the deck, held up by some unseen force. Through the viewscreen, Jack watched as the nebula's gases began to swirl in strange, unnatural patterns. "Captain," Taliakal's voice, tense and sharp, "I'm picking up multiple warp signatures at the edge of the nebula." "Quite a few." Rex asked hopefully, "Terran Alliance?" "Negative, configuration unknown. But they're moving quickly." Jack smirked. The Resistance, Graf Mal's ship, burst out of the swirling gases, a huge black vessel packed with weapons. It immediately opened fire, streams of energy tearing through the nebula toward the horizon. "Evasive maneuvers," Jack shouted. Taliak's hands moved quickly over the controls, and the horizon shifted away from the incoming fire. But they couldn't keep up with Graf Mal forever, not in these conditions. Just as a second barrage was about to strike, a flurry of energy torpedoes zipped past and hit Graf Mal's ship. Through the fading energy cloud, Jack saw them, dozens of sleek, blue-hulled vessels with distinctive feline markings slipping into their openings. The Palladian Resistance had arrived. "We're being hailed," Mac reported, voice shocked, "by the Terran Alliance flagship, Intrepid." Jack's jaw dropped. "Put them through." On screen appeared the stern face of Admiral Allison Christensen. "Captain Harlow, your broadcast reached us, and the Alliance is assembling a task force to arrest all consortium members involved in these atrocities." Admiral Jack felt a wave of relief wash over him. "Your timing is spot on. The evidence you've brought is unsettling." Christensen went on. "Violations of several internal species treaties. The Alliance Council is calling an emergency meeting." Her gaze shifted to the Palladian sisters, who had reverted to normal, though their markings still faintly shimmered. "I see the rumors about the Triair's rescue are true." "You knew about them?" Jack asked, surprised. "We've been tracking the consortium's activities for months. There were whispers about royal Palladians being sold on the black market, but nothing definite until your broadcast." On the tactical display, Jack watched Alliance ships and Palladian vessels coordinate their attack on the consortium forces. Graf Mal's ship was already heavily damaged, trying to retreat. "The day I walked past that cage." Jack smiled, looking at his unlikely family. 3 stunning alien women, once destined for slaughter. Now they're mothers to a new species first generation. All because he'd spent his last credits to save them. "Best purchase I ever made," he said, gently kissing Laura as their children played nearby. "The future of 2 worlds, living in perfect harmony." "He's slipping away," Rex observed. "No," Laura replied quietly with certainty. "He's a lunatic." Just then, a massive Palladian ship decloaked right in Graf Mal's path. A single, powerful beam shot out, disabling the consortium leader's engines. "The Devourer is secured," a new voice announced over the calm. A regal Palladian male appeared on screen next to Admiral Christensen. "I am High Commander Thorn of the Palladian Resistance. We owe you a great debt, Captain Harlow." Jack tilted his head. "I was only trying to save innocent lives." "You've done so much more," Thorn responded. "You brought our people back with our Triairs. You've given us hope and heirs to carry on our lineage." 6 months later, Jack stood on the observation deck of New Phalida, a joint human-Palladian colony on a lush moon orbiting a gas giant in Terran Alliance space. Beneath the first settlement taking form, a seamless mix of human and Palladian architecture, the scene unfolded. Behind him, the door slid open smoothly. Laura stepped inside, clutching a small, blue-skinned baby with Jack's dark hair, a blend of human and Palladian traits. Alira and Mita followed, each holding similar bundles. "The children miss their father," Laura said softly, her yellow eyes filled with warmth. Jack gently took his son from her arms, marveling at the tiny figure who gurgled happily at his presence. Through their bond, he could already feel the child's growing mind, sharp, inquisitive, powerful. The council meeting went smoothly. Elira asked as she switched her daughter to her other arm. Jack nodded. The alliance between humans and Felidians is now official, and Gretmil's trial kicks off next week. And the consortium? Mita asked. Dismantled, the evidence we broadcast shows there are no more meat markets or blood trade. Lura leaned against him, purring softly with contentment. All because you couldn't.